Hi folks, so welcome again to HUM1020, Humanities 1. I want to just begin the course by taking a moment just to kind of set the stage and talk about what the humanities are, so you'll know a little bit more about what we're going to do in the course. So just a little bit of historical background. The term humanities is derived from a term that began to be used in the early Renaissance, which is a period that we will cover in this course, and that term was humanism. Humanism was used during the early Renaissance as a way to talk about the celebration of human thought, and in particular during this period, they were celebrating the creative and intellectual legacies of ancient Greece and Rome. So the Renaissance, that term Renaissance means rebirth, and in particular it was a rebirth of ancient Greek and Roman ideas. The study of old Greek and Roman works of art and text led people to believe that only through that kind of study could one be truly human. So the term humanities is really a term that we use to talk about great aspects of human culture that should be studied in order for us to have a fuller understanding of what it means to be human. We now really sort of expand that term to include the study from all cultures. So whereas it was once just Greece and Rome, now we have Western art, we have non-Western thought, and we take a look at multiple cultures. To define humanities, we might define it as the best products of the best minds. So again, originally that just meant Greek and Roman art and sculpture and philosophy. Now we've expanded that term to really include Western European achievements as well as Eastern achievements. So we're really looking at the creative expressions of men and women from around the world. One of the ways that I usually describe the humanities to people is to say that it's basically a study of the things humans have created throughout history and trying to figure out why they made those things. So very often we're going to start with an artifact. That might be a painting, it might be a small sculpture, it might be a work of literature, a piece of music. And from that artifact, from the painting, from the piece of music, we can understand something about the person who made it, the time period that they lived in, the culture that they lived under. And so it really does help us to understand our past by looking at the things that people have made. So some of the disciplines that we'll cover in the course include the big ones: literature, the visual arts such as sculpture, painting, and architecture, music, drama, so we'll be talking about theater in the course, dance, as well as cinema. So we'll talk about all of these things during the course. Very heavily, though, we'll focus on literature and the visual arts, music as well. So when we're studying each of the disciplines, we also need to look at some theory that surrounds each one of the disciplines, such as, for example, when we're looking at a painting by Leonardo da Vinci, we're not just talking about the painting in terms of describing what it looks like. We need to know a little bit of something about the history of painting and possible influences for Leonardo da Vinci. We might need to know special symbols that are included in the painting. So we'll do a lot more theory and history of the subjects as well. Therefore, humanities really does need to include not only an understanding of each one of the disciplines listed here, but also the philosophy, the religion, the history, and the politics that help to sort of make those products come into being. So some takeaways from studying the course. We'll have a better idea of this term beauty. So beauty is in the eye of the beholder. This is probably something you've heard before. You'll definitely find that to be true in this course, that we will study plenty of things that perhaps are not commonly thought of as being beautiful. So we'll really need to sort of analyze what that term means throughout the course and whether it really even matters. It doesn't matter so much that a painting is beautiful as it does that we understand why it was created and by whom. Certainly, humanities informs our language, the way we speak, the way we write, which in terms informs our ideas and how we get them across to other people. And certainly from the humanities, we hope that we're going to gain a deeper sense of the past. So why do we need the humanities? So The humanities do a few things. One, they teach us to learn, they teach us to think critically and creatively. They teach us to learn how to reason and how to ask questions. And these are things that employers in particular, but also transfer institutions. So whether you're going on to the university level after this or whether you're going out into the workforce, both of those entities repeatedly ask for students to be able to think critically, to not necessarily just follow a formula and a script all the time, but to be able to think on their feet. And this is one of the things that can be gained through the type of analysis that we'll do in this course. In addition to that, the humanities help us to understand our world and its history. It helps us to value different cultures and to understand different cultures even when we don't agree with them, and to gain tools that will help us to imagine an exciting future. And I'm just going to leave us here with this quote by W.E.B. Du Bois, where he really kind of talks about the purpose of humanities and a liberal arts education in particular. So he says, now the training of men is a difficult and intricate task. Its technique is a matter for educational experts, but its object is the vision of seers. If we make money the object of man training, we shall develop money makers, but not necessarily men. If we make technical skill the object of education, we make artisans, but not in nature men. Men we shall have only as we make knowledge of the world that was and is, and of the relation of men to it. This is the curriculum of that higher education which must underlie true life. On the foundation we may build bread-winning, skill of hand, and quickness of brain, with every fear lest the child and man mistake the means of living for the object of life. So in other words, humanities are not necessarily about training us to make money, training us to develop a technical skill, but really is about collecting knowledge about human history. And that sort of feeds into this idea of figuring out what the purpose of human life is, and whether it's just to wake up in the morning, go to work, make a living, or is there something bigger that we're supposed to be experiencing and doing? So that's one of the main things that we'll think about and talk about in the course. So that's all for now.